Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dana, thanks for watching, and today we've got a fun sunscreen video for you guys. So this video is all about invisible, clear sunscreens and taking a more nuanced approach and kind of figuring out like what are the subtleties, what are the benefits, why should you pick one over the other. And I'm going to just preface it by saying I think they all work really well, and it just kind of depends on what you're looking for and what your price point is, all those types of things. But I was just curious myself because I have 4 of them. I will just show you right here. And I was like, what is the difference? Like, why is maybe the Supergoop one better? So what I have done is over the last month, I have been wearing each one of these exclusively in the morning, doing the exact same thing with just one moisturizer on before it, and then these, and kind of taking notes and kind of seeing what is the difference, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, and I'm here today to kind of share those thoughts with you. So what I'm going to do first off is my face is dying for moisture because I just washed it and I wanted to have nothing else on it, but I wanted to show you exactly what I do in the morning. And the first step before I even get into the sunscreens is I've been using the Beauty Pie Super Dose Vitamin C Moisturizer. This is my second. I actually have another empty one here because I'm going to do an empties later. I love this stuff. It doesn't really like have a smell. The consistency is not really that crazy, kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like a lot of the things are gimmicky. Like I'm thinking about Glow Recipe where they just smell so divine and maybe they have a really fun, unique consistency. This is just a moisturizer, but it leaves you with this almost sheen. Like I wish it could just be the sunscreen. Like if this were the sunscreen, I would be so happy, but it gives you this kind of sheen, almost like glimmer, and with certain sunscreens you can actually see it through the sunscreen. So I've been wearing this exclusively in the morning and wearing it with every single one of these sunscreens, and I've kind of given it the base. This is the base for the sunscreen. So I'm going to finish applying this, then we'll come back and talk through each of the 4. Okay, hair's up on my face. So once I have the moisturizer on, the next step is obviously to go in with the sunscreen. And when I've been waking up, it's still dark out. I'm not super concerned that like it's the hottest time of the day or the most sun exposure, but I am still putting them on because it's a good way to test. And also by the time I get out of the gym, when I drive home, I'm driving directly into the sun. So I figured that is, pretty necessary. So I'm not going to go in any particular order. I will talk through at the end what I think like my favorite one is, and for each skin type or each kind of different unique experience. So I'm also going to be applying one, but I wanted to just talk through the specs of each one really quickly. The first one we have is the Supergoop Unseen Sunscreen. You probably heard about this. I feel like this is the most kind of famous invisible sunscreen, and for good reason. First of all, they have 2 sizes, which none of the others do. They have this mini size, which is 0.68 fluid ounces or 20 milliliters, and this retails for $20. And then they have their normal size, which is 1.7 fluid ounces or 50 milliliters, and that retails for $36. So it is more expensive, but it's also kind of like $36 these days is, I would say, like more mid-range, and it's just widely available. You can get it Ulta, Sephora, Supergoop website, and lots of other places as well. They do say that it has a natural finish and it also is water resistant for 40 minutes. Oh, and I forgot to mention it's SPF 40, which is really great. I love that all of these sunscreens are a pretty high level of protection. Sometimes you see these kinds of sunscreens at SPF 30, so almost all of these are higher than 30. Actually, all of them are. And I'm actually not going to go through the filters for all 4 of them because they're so similar. They all have the 4 same filters, which would be avobenzone, homosalate, octosalate, and octocrylene, and they kind of have them at different percentages. But if you are interested in the exact percentage, maybe your face like can't tolerate one, just go and look that up. But they all have a very similar kind of makeup to the formula. Okay, the next one we have is the Peter Thomas Roth. This packaging is it's like holographic, so it doesn't show up well. So this one is $38. It's 1.7 fluid ounces or 50 milliliters, the standard amount. And this one is SPF 45. So this and one other are the highest SPF value, which is absolutely spectacular to see. And this one, I would say, also has kind of a natural finish, but you could also argue that all of them have more of a matte finish because they are invisible and it's supposed to just kind of make your skin look like skin. I kind of go back and forth between is it natural or matte. None of them really dry your face down. So I'm gonna say natural matte for this video. So this is the only one that I couldn't find if it said if it was water resistant or not. So I'm gonna have to assume that it's not, because normally they put it either on the bottle or on the website, somewhere like that. One interesting thing about this is it does have shea butter and Invisible, which I can never say, which are interesting, and I'm gonna talk about later, because I'm actually kind of shocked that it has those, because it doesn't feel like it does. Okay, the next one we have is the Thrive Causemetics. This is the Sunproof 3-in-1 Invisible Priming Sunscreen. So this one is $38, which is the same price as the Peter Thomas Roth, but you only get 1 fluid ounce or 30 milliliters. So this is the worst deal. If you're looking for a deal, this is not it. I've almost used this one up. It goes really quickly if you're applying it every single day. So that's just one thing to note. But it is water resistant for 80 minutes. So we have water resistant for 40 minutes. Can't tell if it's water resistant. They don't say. Water resistant 80 minutes. And then our last one, we have the Black Girl Sunscreen Make It Matte Sunscreen. This one is also SPF 45, same as the Peter Thomas Roth, and this is the cheapest one. This one comes in 1.7 fluid ounces, standard 50 milliliters, but it's only $18. You can find it at Target, Ulta, Black Girl Sunscreen website, lots of places. And this one is, they are claiming that it's going to make it matte, which is interesting because I don't always feel like it does. This one also has shea butter and coconut oil. So if you are not a fan of coconut oil, which I know plenty of people are, this is not the one for you. So I think those are kind of the main specs. Like I said, they all have the same filters at different percentages, but I'm gonna just go from there. I'm gonna apply one to my face, and then I'm gonna talk through which one might be for you or not for you. So I am applying the Supergoop, which, if you know me and if you watched any of my other videos, this is almost out, by the way. That's why I had to film this video today. If you know me or watched any of my other Supergoop videos, look at that. You really can't see it. It's shocking because I have a very love-hate relationship that veers toward the hate side more than the love side with Supergoop. It's just a brand that, while they have the best of intentions, I just find a lot of their messaging problematic. I find a lot of their imagery and like watching people apply their sunscreens problematic. And I just find their sunscreens to be overall like very, very beginner level sunscreen, which is fine. I'm not saying they need to be like fancier or whatever, but they're the sunscreens that get you into sunscreen. Like, they're so visible. Supergoop is just out there. Everyone and their mom has probably heard about it. But I find a lot of their formulas are not kind of conducive to wearing the proper amount. That's my main concern with most of Supergoop. It's that like they have an oil one where if you really, really, truly put the correct amount, which is supposed to be 1/4 teaspoon, I'm not doing that today, but that's okay. I'm not going out of my house today. If you really put that amount on for so many of theirs, they just don't work. So I would say like my main issue with them, I just kind of feel like they didn't do any testing, which I know they did, but like if you do a little drop of any sunscreen, it's gonna work on most people. All that to say, I think this is maybe my favorite one, and now I kind of get the hype. And I've had this before, I just either didn't figure it out, like the proper technique, which I'm gonna show you in a second, or also I took another blob of it. But it really is the easiest to apply. It is the one that I would recommend to a beginner or a non-beginner, and I think it will go for the most skin types. Now, how did I get it to work? What is the key? Well, I really truly think that actually having the moisturizer on underneath was key, which is kind of counterintuitive because I think of these sunscreens as like pretty mattifying. You know, they're not gonna leave you glowy at all. They're just gonna look like your skin. Like, it's gonna look like you have nothing on. So my theory before was that maybe I just put it on dry skin and it soaks in. But I think it's actually quite the opposite. And with the moisturizer that I put on before, it really helps it kind of stick to my skin and not move all around. I used to hate this sunscreen in particular because it is so silicone-y. Like, it's slippy, slidey. It's supposed to be kind of a makeup base. A lot of these are. But once I tried it with the sunscreen, and then secondly, what I'm doing right now is like really rubbing it in. Not harshly, but just not letting it kind of sit on my skin. That made all the difference. And I will give you a third tip. if you ever have a hard time rubbing a sunscreen in, if you feel like you've gotten a good amount on, go ahead and wash your hands, because a lot of it is just on your hands. And it's not, I mean, hopefully you're still getting enough on your face. I'm pretty confident that I am. But once you wash your hands, then you can rub the stuff in on your face and it sinks in a little bit more easily. So those are some tips. I can already feel this one pretty much rubbed in. And I'm not forgetting about my neck, although all of a sudden my neck is all splotchy. So I'm gonna finish up just applying this, go wash my hands, and then I will come back and talk through the others and kind of, where I stand with them all. All right, it's all soaked in and my hands are all clean. So let's talk about each one and the nuances and the difference that I think and how they'll work for different people. So, like I said, I think that the Supergoop, while I gave it such a hard time in the beginning, I think it's actually gonna be maybe the one that is the most useful for the most people. So I love that it comes in this travel size. This is great, obviously, for traveling, if you're going on a weekend away or whatever, and then it comes in your standard size. And $36, it's not gonna break the bank, but you're also gonna get your money out of it. I think it actually blends in and soaks in better than a lot of the others. And it's just easy. Like, you can't mess this up. The only way you can mess it up is by not putting enough on, but you could do that with any sunscreen. So my one issue, I guess it's like a pretty small issue in a sense, is that I wish it was water resistant for a little bit longer. This one's only water resistant for 40 minutes, whereas some of the others are 80 minutes. So that's like the one thing that I would say, like the downside. But if you really want one that kind of soaks in pretty much immediately, this is the one. And it's just easy. The texture and consistency is quite light compared to some of the others. It's not too greasy, it's not too dry. It's just pretty great. Which is, me saying that about a Supergoop is rare. The next one that I absolutely adore is actually this Thrive Causemetics one. When I first got it, I said there's nothing wrong with it. There's just, it really kind of mimics the Supergoop in a lot of ways. I just find that the price being $38 and for 1 fluid ounce, that's a lot. You're gonna go through this pretty quickly. It is pretty slender and slim, so it's a nice travel one. But other than that, it's just, you could get the exact same thing with the Supergoop and you would get more for, $2 less even. So while I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and it does kind of soak in, the texture is almost exactly the same as the Supergoop. If you're trying to choose between the two, I would definitely go with this one. You can get free shipping usually from Sephora. This one you'll have to go through the Thrive website. So it's a little, I feel like the decision is an easy one. Now, the Peter Thomas Roth one is interesting. So this one has the highest, along with the Black Girl sunscreen, they have the highest protection. So this one is not water resistant, and that is kind of my big downside of this one. It's a little bit more than the Supergoop. You're paying $2 more for the same amount, but it being not water resistant, I would say if you're gonna use this, just use it on days where you're just like in the office or at home. Like for me, when I work out, it's probably not the best option just because I am sweating so much, but I'm also not outside working out in the middle of the day. So I'm not super, super concerned with it. But that is definitely the downside for this one. The consistency is interesting, and I'm gonna show you the comparison between this one, and then let's try the Supergoop, because that's kind of the top one for me, I guess. This is gonna be very hard to show you. Okay, let's see if you can see. This one is the Peter Thomas Roth, and then if you can see it right there, that is the Supergoop. So the Peter Thomas Roth it's clear, but it's got almost, like you can tell, a thicker kind of yellowish consistency, where the Supergoop is just clear, like as the day is long. The Peter Thomas Roth one definitely has, like, even now you can see it on my hand. Can you see where the Peter Thomas Roth is? Nope, because it is matte. Like, that is so matte. Whereas you can see the sheen from the Supergoop. It will dry down eventually, but like, that is matte. So that brings me to my point. Now, this one, the Black Girl sunscreen, calls itself Makeup Matte, but I truly think if you want a really matte one, it's gonna be this Peter Thomas Roth. If you are looking for something that just like, not dries your skin out, but doesn't have any shine, any sheen, anything, it's this one. I don't love, like I said, that it's not water resistant, but I do love that it's SPF 45. The consistency is thicker than the others though. So I think people are gonna be a little reticent to put more of it on because it's not hard to blend out. I mean, you saw how it's clear, but it's definitely like a little bit more, there's just more gel to it. Whereas these two from Thrive and Supergoop are almost like they kind of melt into a liquid pretty quickly. So those are kind of the points to this one. I realized I'm still zoomed in, but I'm gonna keep going with it, why not? Okay, so that brings me to my next point. And I realize I should have done a swatch on my hand of all of the sunscreens, but it's very hard when they're clear. But I am gonna show you the Black Girl sunscreen. So I don't know if you could see when it was coming out of the packaging, this one kind of liquefies like way quicker than all of the others. And I don't love it because when I go to use it, it actually runs all over. And this one is kind of in the same vein as the Supergoop, where it's quite runny and very sheeny. So that's the point that I wanted to bring up. I've talked about this before. I've kind of vacillated between loving it and hating it. I think it's just not for me. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I think what it is this is a clear sunscreen, which is fabulous. I love all of these that they can fit on all skin tones. But this one has too much oil in it for me. It never feels like it really soaks into my skin. I know that it, like I said, it has coconut oil and it has visible, however you say it. So if you have dry skin but you want a clear sunscreen, this is actually my recommendation because I think this one is gonna help those with dry skin the most. Now for me, I'm typically using these sunscreens in the summer when my skin is at its most oily, there's a lot of humidity in the air. So this just doesn't work for me. Not to say that it doesn't work. It works just as well as the others. It's just not for my skin type. So if you're asking me like, which one of these four is the best for dry skin? This one, I really think so. Which one is the best for like the all around, don't have to think about? Definitely the Supergoop. If you want just a fancy experience, I guess, this would be the Thrive. And then for the Peter Thomas Roth, I don't know. I don't really understand where it fits in. Because while I like it, the not being water resistant while all of the others are, it just kind of like takes it down a notch. But I guess if you're wearing heavy makeup and you really want a nice primed face, this would be a good one. But at the end of the day, they kind of all do that. They're all priming sunscreens. So I think that answers all of my questions. I hope it answers all of yours. And I was thinking, as I did the two swatches, that I should have done more. And I just want to mention that it's going to be hard to see because they're all invisible, but I just want you to look at the different consistencies and textures and take that into consideration when you're thinking about what I said and which one to consider buying. So with all that said, just remember, do you absolutely need any of these? Probably not, unless you were looking for the one sunscreen that you couldn't live your whole life without and you need an invisible sunscreen. But if not, if you already own sunscreens that you love, you do not have to go out and purchase these. I always like to remind people, intentional consumerism is what this channel is about. We like to think wait until you need something and then use the advice and the thoughts that I've provided and then go out and buy it. But don't just buy needlessly. So I'm going to insert those swatches now. I will have this all time-stamped. Dana, don't forget to timestamp it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.